Hello, would you like to create a 3D card swiper slider that looks like this? And would you like it to be responsive, which means that it adapts to the mobile views just like in this case? In this video, I'll show you step by step how to create one using React for you to use it in your portfolio, online store, or any website you need to. The first thing we need to do is to create a repository. And for this, we are going to navigate to the folder where we want to create our repository. In my case, it is this one. Once we are in the folder, we press right click and we open a Git bash terminal or a Windows terminal. In my case, I open the Git bash terminal. And here we will type the command npx create react app. And following that, the name of the repository. In my case, the name I will use will be 3D Card Swiper. This is the most suitable name I find for this repository. Once we type the name of the repository, we press enter and the repository will be created by itself. So we just have to wait. It may take some time. Okay, and once it is created, we need to navigate to the folder of the repository, and then we press enter, and we are inside the folder of the repository. And once we are inside, we type code space dot, which will open us the Visual Studio Code. Then we go to settings, terminal, and new terminal. And this terminal will be used to run the repository. Here we will type the command npm run start, and we press enter. Let's consider that it may take some time when it's the first time running the repository. We can see that it opened a new tab in the browser with localhost 3000, which is the port that our new app is running. Okay, so we can see it over here. And the next thing we are going to do is to start removing all the styles. So for this, we are going to the repository. And here we need to delete the content of the CSS files, the app.css. Let's delete the content. We delete it and save it. And then we go to index.css, we delete the content and save it. We can see that it has no style. The next we need to do is to remove the content of the main component, which is the app.js component. The content of the return div, just this part. Then we save it. And we go back to the browser. We can see that now we have a blank page. We are going to write some tests just to make sure this is the right component, and yes, we can see it is. Let's delete it and save it again. The next thing we are going to do is to change the tab name and the tab logo. For this, we are going to the public folder and we go to index.html. And here we look for the React app text, which is the tab name, this one, and we set the name that we want to set for that tab. In my case, I'm going to use Mayan Text 3D Swiper Slider. We save it. And we can see that our tab name is Mayan Text 3D Swiper Slider. And now we're going to change the logo. For this, we have the favicon, which is the default logo, the logo displayed in the tab browser. Okay, for this we need to replace that favicon. We will drag the favicon to the public folder to replace it. We stop the server and we run it again with npm run start, and we press enter. Here we can see that the logo in the browser tab has been also updated. Now the next step we need to do is to install the Swiper library in order to create the SwiperSlider component. For this, in the terminal, we are going to type npm install Swiper, and then we press enter. Okay, once it has been installed, we run the repository again with npm run start. And we can see there's no visual difference because that library was only installed in the repository. And now we need to create the component of the SwiperSlider that we are going to use. For this, we need to create a new folder in the source folder. And we are going to name it components. And inside that folder, we are going to create a new file. And we are going to name that file SwiperSlider.jsx because it is a React component. And here we are going to use a snippet. For this, we will type RAFCE and then we will press the tab key. This is a snippet which stands for React Auto Function Component Export. This is a snippet that helps us create our component faster. Okay, once we have created, we save it. And then we need to go to our main component, the app.js. And we import that component that we just created. And for that we type import SwiperSlider from and the root of the file. And here we are going to call this component SwiperSlider. And we save it. And we are going to just format the code. And now we can see the text SwiperSlider here, which is the text we are using for this component, the new created one. Now we need to do some imports to the SwiperSlider component. The first one, we need to import the Swiper and SwiperSlide from the Swiper React library. For the following step, we need to import some CSS files from the library, which the first one is the Swiper/CSS. The second one, the second import is the Swiper/CSS/effect Coverflow. And the third import is the Swiper/CSS/pagination. These imports are going to help us to style our SwiperSlider. And the last import we are going to use is the import of the effect Coverflow and pagination from the Swiper modules. And we save the file and we can see some warnings here that are the imports that we just declared but we are not using yet. Okay, we refresh the page and we can see no visual changes yet because we have not implemented those imports. The first prop we are going to add is the effect, and we'll set it to Coverflow. This is to add a 3D Coverflow effect. The next prop we will add is grab cursor, and we will set it to true. This shows a grabbing cursor when moving through the swiper. The next prop will be the centered slides, and we will also set it to true. It centers the active slide on the swiper. And the next prop will be slides per view, and we will set it to auto. This adjusts the slide width automatically. The next prop will be Coverflow effect. It will help us to configure the Coverflow effect, just like the rotation, depth, shadow, etc. Now here we are going to create an object with some properties for the Coverflow effect, which the first one is rotate. We'll set it to 50. The stretch we'll set it to 0. The depth we'll set it to 100. The modifier we will set it to 1. And the slide shadow we will set it to true. This is to add a shadow effect to the slides. Now the next prop will be pagination, and we'll set it to true. This is to add the pagination dots to the swiper. Now we will use the modules prop, and here we will use the effect Coverflow and the pagination, which means it enables the needed swiper modules for this swiper. And we will use the class name, and we will set it to my swiper. It adds a custom class for styling. We save it, and we can see that we have a warning here that we are not using the SwiperSlider, one of the import that we have at line 2. Okay, now we refresh the page, and we can see no visual changes yet because the SwiperSlider is empty. And here we are going to use now the SwiperSlider. This component is for the card that will be inside the swiper. So once we declare the SwiperSlider component, we will create an image tag here. This image will be the card for the SwiperSlider item. For the card inside of the swiper. Okay, we add a source, which will be an empty one so far, and we add an alt. This is a text to be displayed for the user in case that the image source is failing. So in my case, I'm going to use the image 1 for this example. I'm going to import the image 1. I assign a name to the image 1. And here we will create a new folder that we will name it assets. And inside that folder we will create a new folder that is image. And inside the image folder we will drag the image that we want to use. In my case, I just drag the image 1. And we reference the route of that image. Assets, images, and image1.png. And now we use the name that we just declared for that image, which in my case is image slide 1, and we paste it on the source. And we save it. Now we go back to the browser, and we can see that we have the first image of the swiper. And now I'm going to use all the images that I want for my swiper, and I drag them to the same folder, the images folder. Now I copy and paste the imports for the image, and I just change the reference in the route and the name that I want to use. In my case, I just created the image slide 2, and it's image 2. Okay, I got an error here, and that's because file extension. I used a PNG for the second image, but we can see that is a JPG image. Okay, and now we can see that we have the two images of the swiper with no styles yet. Okay, now we do the same for the next images. Okay, and we do the same for the rest of the images. Let's do the same for the image 3. Let's just change the reference. We save it and we go back to the browser. And now we can see that we have the 3 images with no styles yet. In my case, this is the amount of images I'm going to use. We take care that we have the right file extension. The 6 is a PNG extension. We change the reference in the route. We save it and we can see that we have warning that those images that we just import, we are not using them. We are going to use them now. We change the references. And we can see that we have all images here with no styles because we can see they are different size, all of them. And now we are going to create the styles for the images in the swiper, and we are going to do it in the app.css file. First, we create our swiper class. We set a width of 100%. Save it. We can see it didn't change yet. Okay, we also create the SwiperSlider class. Sorry, I have a missing dot in the beginning. And we use first the background position center. We also use the background size cover. Width for the SwiperSlider. In my case, I'm going to use 300 pixels. Set a height of 300 px as well, 300 pixels. We save it. We use the SwiperSlider and we apply it to the images inside the SwiperSlider. We use a display block and we set a width of 100 pixels. We save it and we can see that the size changed, but it's too tiny. Okay, now we are going to set a huge size in the width. Let's set 1000 pixels. Let's apply the important. So let's apply the important to the all properties in the SwiperSlider styles. And we can see that now we have a smaller item, but the image is still too tiny. So in this case, let's set the 100% of the width in the image. And now we can see that we have our SwiperSlider almost done. Okay, this is the view in the mobile view. We can see that it's also working, which is responsive. And now we are going to add a title and a description in this part to each card. For this, we need to add a new div below the image tag. And in that div, we need to set first the title of the card. In this case, I'm going to use title. And below title, I'm going to use a description. In this case, text description. We save it. We need to move the title inside an H3 tag for the title. And then we need to add a class name to the div of the title and the description. In my case, I'm going to use the name item info class. And we are going to create the item info class in the CSS file. First, we need a background color. So we are going to use an RGB type because we want a black color but with some opacity. So we use an RGBA and we set to 0, 0, 0, 0.5 for half opacity. Then we save it. Then we set the color for the text, which in this case is white. So we are going to use the position and we are going to use an absolute position. And we set the bottom to 0. And now we go to the browser and we can see that it's now visible but not the way we want to. Okay, now we add the class width and we will set the same width that the card, which in this case is 300 pixels. We save it and now we can see that that div is the same width as the card and now we use the text align center to have the text in the middle. And now we add a padding of 10 pixels. We are going to do the same with the second card. We are going to add that div. And now we have the title and description in the second card too. But as we can see, we have a lot of code and we will find a way to make it shorter. For this, we need to add the prop to the component. I mean, we need to receive a prop in the component. We save it. Now we send the props to the swiper. Let's name it cards data and let's send first an empty array. And now we are going to copy all the imports to the app.js component. And let's update the route of the source. And now we start creating our cards data JSON. I mean our cards data constant. It will be an array with objects as an item. And each object will have the property image, which will be the source of the image. In this case, the slide 1. Then we will have the title of the card. And then we will have the description of the card. Okay, now we use the cards data component to be sent in the props. And we need to update our SwiperSlider component. Now we know we are receiving the props object. And we start mapping the cards data prop. We use a props.card.map. And we call each element as item and then we use the index, which will be the I. And here we need to return the SwiperSlide component. And now we copy and paste the content inside the SwiperSlider component. Now we replace the source of the image with item.img, which stands for image. And this is the one we are using in the cards data array, the image, title, and description. So we will do the same with the title. We use item.title and the same for the description. Item.description. We save it. And we can see that the difference here is we have the first card repeated. Now we need to delete all the cards we had manually and also the card preferences. And now we have only the first image because we have only one item in the image. Then we need to create another items, and let's not forget about to replace the image. And now we can see that we have the same SwiperSlider component. Okay, now we are seeing some extra space in the part of the title and the description. We can see it over here. So we need to update the width of that div. We have 300 pixels width for the image, so let's set it to 280 pixels. We save it. And we can see that we don't have that problem anymore. Now we see this issue, the image description overlays with the pagination. Now we try to add a paragraph to the item description to fix that issue. And we have it perfect here. And now, in case we want to remove the title and description of an image, if we go to the browser, we can see that we still have the box of the title and description, but it's empty. So for this, we can do something called conditional props. For this, we need to go to the SwiperSlider component that we created, and we add the conditional props. I mean, we need to use the item.title or item.description. It means that if the item.title or item.description exists, it will render that div. And inside that div, we need to check first if the item.title exists, and if it does, it will render the item.title. And then if the item.description exists, it will render also the description. We need to have that if inside the parentheses. And we can see that it looks the same. But now, if we remove the title and description of some card and we save it, we can see that there's just the card on the SwiperSlider. I mean, there's just a card of the second item. And we can remove the item and we won't have the item and description box displayed empty. And now I'm going to customize the title and description for each card. And that's all. For this point, we have our SwiperSlider ready and customized. ready to be used for the desktop view and for the mobile view.